Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening. Ewan Spence here, all about Windows Phone, and it's the final part of the video diary. Blog World is now over. Still left with the Nokia Lumia 800. How has it coped in this travel over the Atlantic to Los Angeles, going around the conference floor, and well, I don't know how it's going to cope on the way back because the bags are packed and the shuttle's going to be here in about 45 minutes, but just enough time for part 4, the last part of this video diary series. It's an interesting way of doing the review. Obviously, the choice are we go out, we write lots of words on the phone, and we do have quite a bit of them coming back on the website. And Rafe has done the sort of initial look at all the specs and the numbers and everything in his unboxing and video review unit. This has been a bit more slice of life. There's not been a lot of discussion about how much memory there is in the device, how fast the processor is, storage, or any of the issues like that. It's about using it in the real world. In other words, where most people will use the phone. You can have a phone that has as much gigahertz processing power and battery life, but if you actually get out and realise that every time you put your thumb on it, it goes, then that phone's useless to you. For the record, okay, right now. I do have some notes on this one because there are lots of questions, lots of things to go over. But if you want the short summary, here it is. I really like this phone. Yes, it is not the Nokia E7 or the N8 or any of the other Symbian devices. But at the same time, it is a very good tool. Think of the Swiss Army knives. Most people use 3 or 4 blades on the Swiss Army knife. The knife, the can opener, possibly the toothpick and the tweezers. But everybody likes to have the hacksaw, the one that takes stones out of the hooves of horses, the Phillips screwdriver, the USB key memory attachment, because they might come in handy at some point. And this is a really important point. I'm going to come back to it later, but let's address it now. People who list all the things that are missing from this phone, from their dream phone, do you actually use those things? Forward-facing camera. Been there since before the N95. I've never used a forward-facing camera in anger. I've used it in testing. I've maybe taken one picture of me like that when I didn't want to do that and turn the phone around. To me, not having a forward-facing camera is not an issue. It's simple as that. And I think that happens to a lot of people. They have a huge list of things and they get scared of leaving something behind. Whereas actual fact, when you use something, you find you don't use it. People always ask what the phone is best for them. Is write down what you actually use your phone for, not what you'd like to, well, not the things that you think would be in a perfect world you'd like to have on a phone, what you actually use it for. That will answer your question on is any phone suitable for you better than anything else. I will be getting into more forensic detail myself, by the way, on allaboutwindowsphone.com next week, running this up, looking at the Nokia specific applications and all that, so do stay tuned for that. Week to get used to the phone now. Right now, did it do what I wanted to do? Yes. Did it keep me in touch? Yes. Did it allow me to interact with all my social networks? Yes. Did it allow me to find the Belasco nightclub, theatre, Phantom of the Opera style dance club venue in the last night? Yes, it did. Did it get me home? Yes. Did it allow me to make calls and texts when I was out here? Yes, it did. Allow me to keep in touch with things at home? Yes. 95% of what I wanted this phone to do, it did. The other 5% would have been nice. Let's go down. Battery, first of all. Getting the confidence on a new phone is really difficult. I mean, when I've been going from Symbian to Symbian, you kind of know what you're getting. You kind of know how good the battery is and things to watch out for. Jumping to Windows Phone, especially Nokia Windows Phone, I didn't. I have had the HTC Trophy 7, and the battery on that is pretty shocking. As I said when I flew over in May, it got me as far as Iceland. It's got me all the way to Los Angeles. But throughout the last couple of days, there's been sort of build-up of confidence is that the battery will get to the end of the day. I gave it a top-up at lunchtime halfway through on the first day of the conference. On the last day, I was quite happy that I knew I would get to the end of the day and it would still have battery charge. Not a lot of battery charge, but still had battery charge. And that's even without the battery saver mode. I've been avoiding using that just to make sure that we're still getting the full Windows Phone experience. I suspect if I knew that I was going to be at a conference and out all of the hours, there may be a temptation to put the battery saver on just to be sure. Here, of course, I didn't. Went right through just for you guys and gals. So that was fine. I still carry purported spare charger, topped up just the once over 3 days of the conference and 1 day of travel. So thumbs up to the battery on that. Connectivity. It was on AT&T for those of you asking. It was a GoPhone SIM. I had a SIM cutter back in the UK, so on that before I go. It's a SIM I always bring over to the US. It mostly stayed on HSPDA, but there were some points where I picked up a 3G signal here in downtown Los Angeles, so it's all set up for that. As a PR phone, it was unlocked, so if you buy it from another network, your mileage may vary and you need to get it unlocked before importing it over into the US. US variants, there's no official news on that. Let's see, connectivity in terms of applications. Thing that is missing, Facebook messages and Twitter DMs. I've got the Facebook application and the Twitter application installed in there to get to them. They're not in the People Hub. You can do Facebook messaging through the chat system, but I never really got to grips with that, so I just left that and used the third-party applications. I think I know the technical reason why, I think I know the management decision why, but that's immaterial to somebody picking up the phone. It doesn't, as far as they're concerned, it doesn't do it. And not yet. It may well happen in an update. I really expect that to happen come the next version of Windows Phone as well. But for now, the third-party applications will have to suffice. Yes, it's a bit of a workaround, but lots of phones have lots of workaround for lots of things. It is a little touch in the negative column for easy to use. People who use Facebook not getting their messages directly, or at least having to jump through some hoops. Mapping. Nokia Drive is on there. I don't drive, but it was still actually a pretty good navigation system. You can still use it when you're walking around, but obviously you're going to have to keep an eye on one-way streets and paths that you can just nip down. The actual maps itself system on there, again, pretty good for walking around, but you don't have that turn-by-turn direction. You've kind of got to eyeball the map and see where you've got to go. So it'd be interesting to see what Nokia Maps brings to that before Christmas. But right now I was confident and able to search and find for locations in both the mapping applications. Personal preference, because I was walking, was to go to the Windows Phone version of Maps and not Nokia Drive. Looks over at the list. What else do we have? Web and email. Big connectivity things. The web browser is wonderful. Seriously, if you've been using Opera on Symbian, if you're using the Nokia browser on Symbian, you pick up Internet Explorer on Windows Phone and you just go, this is what a mobile browser should do. It's almost as slick as the iPhone one. I haven't had a huge amount of time with the 4 and the 4S, so I can't give a direct comparison. I can compare it to Android, and it is far faster and slicker than the Android one as well. Handles layout better, seamless transition over to the YouTube pop-up application. Really, the web browser is a breath of fresh air on this device, and you know, part of me thinks, you know, choosing the devices head to head, that web browser is a big strong take on this, and a negative when you put it something like the N8. You know, the web browser really work. Same with email, threaded email. I've been syncing to Gmail, to Hotmail accounts, and the All About accounts where I need to. The email is just far and away much easier to use, much more responsive, much more clearly laid out with the spaces and everything. You know, from the two bases of web and email business tools, yeah, this is a far better solution. Perhaps Android is better for Gmail, but that's not surprising. But when you go for popping an IMAP account, Windows Phone is actually pretty good. It's pretty good. Again, not a lot of time to compare it with the iPhone 4 and 4S. In comparison to the iPad email client, which I do have, this has threading. I think the new version of iPad does as well. But it feels at about the same flexibility in terms of the iPad email client. So there we go. Looking over at my list again, it's been long. I'm not had a lot of sleep. Okay. Applications I've used, already mentioned two of them: Twitter and Facebook. Foursquare. Already reviewed this back in All About Windows Phone. I said there that Foursquare is one of the best adverts for the pivot and screen panorama and how a Windows Phone application should look. It still does. It's wonderful. It has live tile support. It's everything that a connected application should be. If you're out there as a developer and want to know what your app should look like, go and look at the Foursquare one. Use that. I've been using Evernote, strangely enough. Just to keep it, I know OneNote's in there, and I really should have been using OneNote, but I ended up going to Evernote, and it's really nice. Admittedly, you have to actually get the premium version of Evernote to allow you to work with your notes offline. So this really is a cloud-based solution, whereas OneNote will allow you to do offline stuff. And it's quirky. We'll have a full review on that one coming up, because there are some gotchas, but Evernote does hook in, and lots of people out there are using that on other platforms, so it's nice to see that on a Windows Phone. American Airlines have a travel application. It's not the BA travel application. It doesn't. It didn't allow me to do boarding because I'm not American. Because I was flying out of Edinburgh, and it went, no, you got to do it at the airport, which happens on all the online booking systems as well. But it does allow flight lookup, travel delays, and such like. So it gets the job done, and it's nice. I'm not frequent enough to get the best use of this application, but it's nice to see there. And interestingly, when I handed it over to people at the Southwest stand on the exhibition floor. The first thing they did was open up the American Airlines application. So there's the sort of, it's nice to have those brands in there. It's the same argument we have for having ESPN in there as well. What else? The WordPress application was there. Really, the WordPress application is a bit crufty. I have to say that is one where Android does far better than any other platform. But it did allow me to keep an eye on stats in the website, do some editing on one of my Eurovision websites, and keep an eye on the comments that were coming in on my WordPress blogs. So it's functional and it did the job. It just didn't do it gracefully. And that's the thing. A lot of what Windows Phone does is it does things gracefully. So when you have an application that's just functional, it feels dirty. It's just like, oh, you want to hand it back to the developer and say, look, sweat some of the pixels, make it a little bit faster, give it a bit of polish, because it really feels like you deserve that. It's not all roses. There are some issues. It takes time to build up the confidence on the battery. Unlike picking up a device from Nokia that was running Symbian, it's like needed to build up to that. The shuffle mode on the music player I have an issue with, of all things. And this is really picky, okay? I love listening to music on shuffle. And just going through and just finding through it. And then when I find an album, a track that I like, I want to listen to the whole album. Now, on the Zune, and I have to check this on the HTC Trophy 7 as well, when I come out of shuffle mode, it's shuffled the albums. So I'm then listening, so if I'm going through random track, like that, come out of shuffle mode, I can then listen to the rest of the album. Come out of shuffle mode on the Lumia 800 and you get an alphabetical list of all the tracks on the phone. You need to actually go to the track that you're listening to, press the name of the artist and then press to the album. So you can get around it. But it's picky. It's really, really picky. I know, and that upset me. And it just shows how personal these phones can actually be. Little things like that will just make you go, it rile you. The jump list, where you get A, B. Actually, I'll show you what the jump list is. So the jump list is where you have a big list of things, and you have the letters. Once I passed about 20 applications, my apps screen decided, right, you've got enough there. So you're going to get the jump list. It's great. Don't like the jump list. I want to switch it off. I took one application, the one application I just installed. I took it back again, thinking I'll get the jump list off. It's locked on. I can't get the jump list off again. Again, little interfacey thing. I much prefer just going down a big alpha list rather than having it broken up. That's probably just me, but little things like that can change you. People mentioned the buttons on the side of the phone feeling a bit cheap. To be honest, I'd registered this but not actually thought about it until people brought it up in the comments. Yeah, they're a bit sugary, and yeah, they could do better, and I expect the next phones will. The issue I have with the buttons is nobody knows where the power button is when you hand them this phone. They all look on the top. There's no power. There's a little bump here, but that's to reveal the USB cover, which still looks really fragile and breakable to me. And then just look round, and they don't clock that this here is the power button. So there is that. I think that's the one issue in the UI for people picking it up and going. They don't know how to switch it on. What else do we have? I never missed a front-facing camera. I've done that already further up. Speaking of the camera, yep. Can I judge how good the camera is? No. Steve is going to have to do that. Sorry about that one. But what I do know is that I was able to take pictures of people that I wanted to remember, views that I wanted to remember, and if they were a little bit washed out or the lighting was slightly wrong, it didn't matter to me. And this goes back to the keynote. It's a good camera, and you want to share the pictures. You're right. The pictures look nice to me. Steve will probably do a caption here or something that says, "Oh no, they're not," and everything. But I like them, and they remind me of the conference. I think that's the most important thing for me. In terms of using them on websites, using them professionally and stuff, Steve and Rafe will probably be far better placed to answer that than me, the jinxer of cameras. What I did like though, third-party application-wise, was Pictures Lab. It's a bit like Instagram. It allows you to add funny features and effects and borders onto your phone, so you can add rainbows and stretch and tilt shift and HDR and make it look like it was taken on Kodachrome stuff. And that's nice. And then you can upload it to Facebook and Twitter. Instagram has its own network. Pictures Lab allows you to lock it into your social network. Really liked using that. It also allowed me to crop pictures, and when I uploaded them to Facebook, it would drop them down to like 1000 by 800 pixels rather than loading up 3 or 4 megabytes of images. It'd be much smaller file size, which when you're on a limited data plan, 500 meg a month, is always a nice thing. Right then. Back in September, Steve said if you're going to do all about Windows Phone, you've got to switch to Windows Phone and you've got to use it properly. You've got to use it as your day-to-day phone. And at that point, I was using the HTC Trophy. And I liked Windows Phone. This really does lift Windows Phone up into the next league, though. Even though very little actually changes software-wise, it feels better, it feels snappier, it looks nicer. I've always said that Metro UI is a UI that you want to touch, you want to play around with, you want to explore, you want to go back and forward with it. Couple that with the wonderful styling, the lovely polycarbonate feel, and the sort of cushiony, pillowy shapes that you have in your hand with the 800 Lumia, and you have a winning combination that just wants to be played around with. It makes the phone exciting, and that's important. It makes music exciting. You don't want to be navigating a spreadsheet. It makes pictures exciting as you slide, move around. It even makes your address book nifty when you've got the People Hub and notifications and everything. A lot of people are going, is this the phone for Symbian users? And I've got to say, this is a tough one to answer, okay? Because so many people think they need the stuff they use in their phone, but they actually don't. I think I've covered this ground before, and it's going to go around in circles. There are things that are missing for me, and it's in the application side. Wellness Diary is missing. Sports Tracker is missing. Now Boarding, the game is missing, but that's cross-platform, so I'm hopeful it will arrive soon. But in terms of the basics of a phone, the terms of connectivity, the terms of interacting with people online, the Windows Phone for me is better than Symbian. Yes, the battery life is shorter. Yes, it may not appear as functional. Yes, you can't tweak music players and jump lists and sorting to the nth degree. But this is a mass market phone. This is a phone that's going to be trying to get that big bulk of users. This is a phone that's got to try and reclaim market share for Nokia and claim market share in the first instance for Microsoft Windows Phone. And no, I'm not missing Symbian. I still love Symbian. The E7 is actually here. It's come out with me LE. It's the spare phone, as it were. If anything goes wrong, I know I can pick this up, and I've got 50 international minutes on Orange. So it's not like I don't have a safety net. But I'll be honest, every time I travel with at least 2 phones and different SIM cards, so I always have a safety net. Don't take that as a slight on the Windows Phone, or even a slight on the E7 that it's not being used. It's just, that's the spare. It is a step up for Windows Phone. It's a step to the side for Symbian users. I'm not an iPhone user, so I can't describe what sort of level it is. Androids, I have the Tab 7, and that's not really a phone, but I get the feeling that Windows Phone is comparable to Android. Yes, there are more applications, but there's still few gaps. Hootsuite is one of them, which we've mentioned before, but it can still work. It still does everything you need it to do. I'm not 100% on this platform yet. I'm not 100% on any platform. I do switch devices. I'm in a very good position where I can choose where I want my primary device to be. And the 800 is going to get my main SIM card clicked and put into it when I get home. It's going to be the primary phone, I think. It feels right, it feels new, it's doing what I want it to do. It's got my music, it's got my internet, it's got my contacts, I can stay in touch with my friends and family. It does what it needs to do. In the real world, where that real world is population 1, name Ewan, the Nokia 800 is a winner. For you, watching this video, that remains to be seen. It is very personal, but there's certainly no obvious gaps or flaws, and I think that people who approach this with an open mind are going to be very, very pleasantly surprised. allaboutwindowsphone.com. You can get in touch with me, Ewan, at allaboutwindowsphone.com or twitter.com/Ewan. Delightful to hear your comments. You can do a YouTube video reply, you can send an email, you can leave those comments back in the website. That's probably the best place, to be honest, because then we can all pitch in and have a discussion. We'll have more on the Nokia Lumia 800, the 710, all the HTCs, Italians, radars, all of that, Samsung devices, HTCs, ZTEs, all of that, games, applications, Windows Phone news, all of that and more going forward for the next days, weeks, months, and potentially years, if everything works out on allaboutwindowsphone.com. But for now,